Hi everybody, my name is Billy Sheehan. I'm here for another one of my YouTube videos. This is the third one, I think, and I'll be doing a lot more. I want to do this first couple talking about the mechanics of the bass and the straps I did, installing a pickup we did. Today we're going to do another aspect of things you can do for your bass. But the whole idea behind them is to be as helpful as possible, and I see by the comments that people have found some of the things I've said on these videos to be helpful. Mission accomplished. That's what we're here for. I'd like to see my fellow musicians doing better, finding life easier, figuring out how to do things themselves. For me, I've done almost all the work on all my basses through the years. But of course, I'm not a luthier. I'm kind of a hack, and it's never done exactly right, but it's done enough for me to use those optimizations and modifications for my own use in my playing. If I was working for someone else on someone else's guitar, it'd be a different story. I'd want to have to be much more careful. So you may see some things here today that a luthier would never do. So I apologize for that. And again, I'm not a luthier. I'm just a bass player. So a lot of people, I love my Yamaha basses, and but they're very expensive. They're handmade in Japan, and for me, they're worth every penny. I love the basses, and they have served me extremely well. But sometimes you can't always afford an expensive bass. So I think today we'll kind of show that you can take a bass of any price range in any kind of condition, I think, and make it play really well. There's a little bit of controversy over what makes your bass sound the way it sounds. Speakers, the cabinets, the amp, the effects, the cord, the frets, the wood of the fretboard, the body wood, pickups, all kinds of things, strings. They all have a part of the equation, I think, but in the end, I believe it's your hands. So the reason I say that is I want to give people the confidence to know that, yeah, if you don't have a fancy schmancy $2,000, $3,000 or $4,000 bass, you can still have an amazing career, be wildly successful, and play great songs and be known all over the world and all kinds of things. So that isn't always a requirement. It's nice when you have the money to drop it on a nice bass if you like. But this bass here we're going to be working on today, I had a bunch of old parts, some old DiMarzio pickups that I had from back in the early 80s and such, old tuning pegs and bridges and stuff like that, knobs, some old pick guards. So I went online and I found a $50 body, a $50 neck, and got them and slopped them together, basically. I had a gentleman help me in LA. His name escapes me right now. I'll put it in the comments section, or I'll put it in the explanation with a link to him also. He was a wonderful luthier in North Hollywood, and he helped come in and do the things I couldn't do, or I was doing so bad I would be ashamed about it. So I'll put his name and link in the explanation. But anyway, generally what you want to do on any bass, cheap bass, is make it play really well. Now, what that might be sometimes is getting the action lower, getting the neck straight, and getting the frets level. Whenever I get a bass, I always take and kind of sight down the neck. And you see the string, of course, is absolutely straight, but you see the neck might have a little bit of a curve to it. So a lot of times one of my first orders of business is to straighten that neck out. Now, I looked down this one. I haven't done that to these basses since they were made. I just kind of made them and hung out with them. And they play really well. They sound good and they play well. And it's about a little, with parts, it's about 150 bucks. So as I look down this neck, I see one of the first things you can do on any instrument to make it a little bit better is do a little neck adjustment. Now, some adjustments are on this part of the neck, on the part that goes into the body, which leaves me to be in a little problem sometimes because I usually have the neck position pickup. This is a DiMarzio Model 1 in here now. So if it is in there, I got to either pull the pickup out or take the neck off. It's a big pain in the neck, but that's what you got to do. Fortunately, on these necks, just by chance, the adjustment is up here. So if I can get this hex wrench in there, of course, tighten is this way, loosen is that way, and if you don't want to have it backwards, tighten is clockwise, loosen is counterclockwise. So as as I look down the neck, there was a little bit of a curve. So what I might do is give it about a, sometimes it's tricky to seat that in there. We got it now. I'm gonna tighten it, because when you tighten it, you straighten the neck out this way. Tighten it too much, you go too far, all your frets will buzz. Got to be careful. So it's not a bad idea to do it incrementally. Do it about 1/4 of a turn, let it rest. Takes a little while for that wood to settle in. Next day, pick it up, see how it is. Not quite there, give it another 1/4 turn. And that way you can get that neck nice and straight. Some guys don't like them absolutely straight. Some guys like a little curve in there. It's your preference. If you've been playing the bass for a while and it feels good and there's a little curve there, straightening it out might actually throw you. So keep that in mind. Again, a lot of these things are to kind of fine-tune the bass to you. I have fine-tuned my basses to me, so I find it very valuable when I do that, because they respond to how I approach the bass. So you will have that aspect to your playing as well. So let me give it a little turn here. Oh, it's pretty loose, which means it's not pushing hard against it. So I might actually do another turn. I didn't know. I didn't check anything else. So we're seeing all this in real time. So yeah, I gave it 2 turns there. Let me see if that moved at all. Not really. So this might be a little bit looser than it should be. So once I get it to the point where it's tightened up and I feel some resistance from the wood, I can be assured, there, it's getting a little tighter now. I can be sure it's pushing back against the wood and straightening it out. Go online and look up what a truss rod is, how it works. You can find this information around all over the place. Just Google it. You'll find a lot of guys have done videos that are much more, have much greater expertise than I do by far. Stuart McDonald, I'm using some of their tools here today. There's a great company with tools and instruction on how to, and anything you might need to fix a bass or work on any guitar, bass, or fretted instrument, they're the people to go to, in my humble opinion. So now I feel a little resistance on there. Let me look down there, and sure enough, it's definitely straighter. I'm gonna go a little farther, and then we're gonna check it out. I should have a little amp set up here, so when we take a break, an edit break, I'll set one up so you can hear better. But that's nice now. Little tiny bit of a curve. I don't want it absolutely flat. That's just my personal opinion. So we'll hear a little buzz, a little more buzz there than here. And no buzz here because there's no frets to buzz against. What's happening there is, and this will be the next step we're going to take into consideration. Actually, the second step we're going to take into it. What happens with frets in wood is some are high and some are low sometimes. Once you settle them in and pound them in, when they put the frets on, it's a lot of it is more art than science. So they're not always completely flat. So what you can do sometimes is take an absolutely straight edge and take a look and see if you can see light underneath any of them. Then those are low. And if they're low, what happens is, as you fret that string, it's pushing on a fret that's lower than the fret after it. And so it's going to buzz on that fret. Then when you play the next one, you'll hear less buzz. So what you want to do is get all those frets at the same level. Now, I skipped a step. One other thing you can do also that's of incredible importance is understanding how to set up your bridge string height. Intonation is another story, though it is related to this. Intonation is how far you move these saddle pieces with this screw. The purpose of that is to have the bass play in tune. So if you play a harmonic on the 12th fret, it should be the same note if you fret it. Tiny bit sharp. Or maybe flat. If it's sharp, then you have to lengthen this string, and you will adjust it to pull this towards the end of the bridge and make this part shorter. So you can adjust, sorry, bad explanation, but nevertheless, you know what I mean. You can find that on YouTube also. Intonation. So what you might want to do before you start doing the final step is get the neck straight, Get the intonation correct. Actually, I'm sorry, I skipped one again. You might want to get the string height. You'll notice that the neck has a little bit of an arch to it, like that. I forget what the actual figures are. Some instruments are 14 inches, a 14-inch circle, and that's the arc you're seeing. Anyway, you want those strings to be pretty equidistant from the frets, and the strings are of different thicknesses. So you might have to get a way to look at the bass like that and kind of match up the roundness of that fretboard with the arc of the strings as you adjust their heights here. Some of the problems you're going to run into is too low and it's going to buzz. That's actually pretty good. Too high and it's going to be difficult to play. So here's where your personal choice comes in. If you want the frets up or the strings up super high, it's going to be tough to play, but you're going to get a big fat giant round bass note with no buzz and no nothing, and it's a beautiful thing. Just depending on what kind of music you play, if you just need a big solid whomping great bass note, just get that action up high. You won't hear any fret buzz. It's going to be tough to play, but that's the nature of how that works. Now, if you get it low, it's going to be a lot easier to fret stuff, but you're going to get some noise and some buzzing. So you have to decide for yourself which way you want it. I get so many questions from people, you know, should I do it this way or should I do it that way, or how about this and how about that? A lot of these things are your personal choices. You got to make a decision. Work with it for a while, and if you don't like it, you can always change it later. No problem. It's easy to do. So right now, I've already kind of set this one up, and it's pretty good. I might raise, what I do for my personal setups is I play the top note, and then I see how close it is to that pickup. The reason is, when you look at my pickup installation video, we want to get that pickup close so we can play on it. And that acts as a little ramp for our fingers. So that's an important thing for me, but not for everybody. Some people like to drop the pickup way in, get it out of the way, and play around it. And there's probably a million other variations too, depending on the type of player you are and what you like. So if it buzzes or hits this, I gotta raise it up. So anyway, some personal choices here. The great thing is you can try raising your action up a bit, play it, move around with it, see you do a couple gigs with it, adjust it all the time. You're not doing much of a change on the bass. A lot of times when I start a tour, my hands aren't at full strength. So in my mind, I've been thinking, oh man, this bass is so hard to play. So I drop the action down. Yeah, that's good. And then as I gain strength, I'm thinking, man, the action is way too low. I better bring it back up again. Because the harder you play, the more you're going to smash those strings into the frets, and the more strength you have, it's going to exhibit a response from the bass differently. So those are some of the things you could do just to start off with to make a bass play great. And now I'm going to stop the camera for a minute, take the strings off, and show you how to find and remedy any low frets to get it so that it doesn't buzz at all, and you can get the action way down if you like, or at least better, and at least less buzz and click from the fretboard. So that'll be our next little step here. Alrighty, we got the strings off, frets exposed. Now we can find out what's going on with this bass. It's got a little buzz in some of the register. I've noticed that a lot of bolt-on necks with the traditional Fender style bolt-on, you'll often get a little hump here from the pressure of the strings on the neck pulling. So you'll often find a little spot here that's pretty common. They'll have some frets that are of different levels, which will give you a little bit of buzz. So one of the first things I do is a little caveat before that. Some straight up blue tape you use in painting that comes off easily without taking the finish off. If you're really concerned about your instrument, if it's a valuable instrument, you probably should tape all in between all the frets. Pretty easy to do. Just get it in there all the way down. As the fret space, the note space becomes wider, you got to double it up or go to a wider tape. And down here, again, it's going to be tighter, so you have to cut the tape in order to get it in between. But this will prevent any work you do on the fret from scratching the fretboard, if that's a concern of yours. For me, I just try to be careful. If I got a little scrape or a little nick in there, it doesn't bother me so much. But again, I'm mostly all utilitarian on my basses. They're my tools. So I don't really, as much as I respect my tools, and the cosmetics aren't always a huge concern of mine, but it's an important thing to look out for if that is a concern of yours. And again, if you're not sure, if you're uncertain, or if it's your only base, practice on a cheap one or one that's barely functional to make sure you get your base fixing chops up. But if you're uncertain, take it to somebody, and maybe they'll be kind enough to allow you to watch, and then you can do it yourself if you need to later. So what we're going to do, and I learned this from a dear friend of mine back in Buffalo, New York, a guy named Chris Vorse, and he was he had his PhD in analytical philosophy. Very smart man. And he showed me how to do the fret dressing. One of the first steps you do is we're going to color with a Sharpie or magic marker. Color that fret. This one is a little bit out of ink, so that guy I bought two. And there we go, much better. We're going to color them. The reason why is we're going to lay a file on top of them, an absolutely flat file, and it's actually called a bastard file, I believe. That's the actual name of it. Swear to God. And I don't know why, but somebody does out there, and I'll see it in the comments, I'm sure. So we paint these frets. And now this is just Sharpie or magic marker, easy to get off later, no problem, no trouble. You can, it'll generally be removed when you do your final step of the fret dressing with a little steel wool to take this off. No worries, it'll wear off if you play anyway. So I'm just going to take it down to there. You don't have to go the whole way. I missed a little bit there. Easy to clean up later. WD-40 takes it off. Goof Off takes it off. No problem. Again, I'm not all that concerned about cosmetics because I'm more utilitarian here. Oh, I really blew that one. So let's see. Okay, so I get it nice and dark here. Okay, so generally I have a larger file, but I couldn't find it. But no matter what size the file is, larger is probably better. You want to make sure it's absolutely flat because you don't want to use a curved file to try and make something flat. That's common sense. So with a great straight edge, you make a double check and make sure it's absolutely flat, and we're good. So the first step is to just lay it on there carefully and give it a little scrape. So we're just going to give it a little light scrape and see what we have. Again, this platform for the instrument, I had to make one up out of parts because normally I have it on my workbench, but it was pretty cold in the garage today, and I want the cold to affect how the bass is responding here, so we came indoors today. So now we got a little bit of a scrape going on there. Now if you look closely, you'll see it's gone from there, it's gone from there, it's not gone from there, it's not gone from there. So those are low frets. They're lower than. I'm going to make sure and do an extra little rub here to see if that one's actually down or not. Okay. Yeah, this one is lower because these are scraped. That is low. That's okay. Last fret. It was touched though. But this is definitely lower. And they're all varying degrees of being affected by the file scraping. So when you have a low fret, like I said before, when you fret right here, this fret is lower now than this one, so it's going to buzz against there. If it was higher, it wouldn't buzz there, but the one behind it would, because it'll be hitting a high fret, would automatically make that a low fret. So the point is you've got to try to get them even. So what I do is I take this file and get a little bit more aggressive and just start taking down. Take these down until I get all of them touched to a greater degree by the file, so that all of that marker from the Sharpie or magic marker is has been touched. Some of them you may not need to go as low. Again, this is not the perfect surface for this because I I had to just put it on a couple of stools here because we couldn't go in the garage today. But you get the idea. So now we're gonna, one thing I do often is in this part of the neck anyway, I've seen some explanation of necks where they kind of go this way, they drop again, and then they fall away. There's various ways of people having the microscopic increments though, various ways for that neck to go. I just, in my mind, I just keep it as flat as I can. And since you're never really going to wear these frets down anyway, why not take them down a little bit more? They'll be out of the way of the string. When that string vibrates, when it's an open string, the widest point of vibration is at the 12th fret. That's moving. When you move, that center point of the widest vibration moves. So why not have this down a little bit? So as you're playing your big fat whole notes, all these frets are out of your way. That's the idea of it. Again, that's just the way I've been doing it for me. I'm not a luthier, which is becoming painfully obvious, I'm sure, here. So we just take these down a little bit more till we make sure we've got each fret has been touched by that file to some degree. That way we know the fret to the right and the left of it is at the same height. We don't want any low frets. And the bass is moving on here. Again, I would have, I don't have a portable work surface, so I'll get on that. I'll bet Stuart McDonald has one. I got to go there and look. So yeah, so now I see, if you come here with that camera, Cody, you'll begin to see that we have most of that black has now been removed, which means every fret that had it is the same height as the fret to its right and to its left. I see a little bit more here. And again, the last few frets are critical because as you get up, they're the last thing to hit it. Plus the neck has pressure on it, which sometimes pushes these up. So I will purposely take these down more, even more than necessary, because it's not gonna, for me, it doesn't really affect anything. Again, one of the advantages of working on your own instrument is you really can fine tune it to you. This, you may not want to do it like that. You may want to have it a different configuration, whatever you think in your mind was logical to you. There's a psychological element to it too. Sometimes if you know there's a low fret, you can hear buzz when you're not really even hearing it. So all these factors come into play. And if you're doing the work on the instrument yourself, you can make adjustments according to how you want it. When you have to rely on someone else that's a luthier or a better tuned in to how to do this, you're going to have to rely on them. And that's a good thing generally because they know what they're talking about, but it may not be exactly in line with how you want it. So learning how to do it yourself is always, in my mind, I'll just hold the bass, a better way to go, in my humble opinion. And it served me well enough over many, many years. Again, I'm going to take this front area down a little bit, just because it can fall away here and not really affect much of anything. There we go. That's pretty good. Okay, pretty good. Now, as you see, I didn't hit any of the fingerboard because the frets keep that file off of it, but you have to be careful. And again, I'm on a surface here now that's awful, so it could have been a lot better. Again, I think this is a Stuart McDonald piece. It's an absolutely flat, it's got a layer of glass here to make sure that it's absolutely flat. And you can test it also to make sure with your straight edge. But it's a little finer than the file, so this can take off a lot of the rough edges. We can take this and run it. If you hear, it doesn't even make the scraping sound like the other one. This will make it a little bit smoother. We're going to do a few more steps to get the frets in shape. This should take everything down nice and smooth, as opposed to the file, which is a rough cut. But you need to remove some material, so you got to use the file first. You can do it all with this, but it's going to be it's going to take a long time. And again, I'm going to go a little extra attention to this spot up here to make sure it falls away nicely, gets out of the way of that vibrating string, much less apt to buzz. And there we go. That should be okay right there. Now I'm going to step away from the camera for 1 second and I'll be right back with something to wipe that down. Hold that thought. All right, let me get all the debris out of the way here. Just a paper towel with a little bit of a furniture polish on it. I can probably take away some of those, my miscalculations on the Sharpie. Yeah, they come off very easily, no problem. They're off there now. Take them all down, get rid of it. Yeah, we're good, we're good. Okay, so now we have what are in theory frets that are flat. But we did something to make them flat is we cut the top of them off. So now they're flat. The surface of the fret itself is flat. You don't want that. As the string lands on that surface, it's got to land on a point that is in the center of the fret so that it's in tune. The frets are measured out so that each one is a particular note, half step by half step up the neck. So if it's flat, it's pretty microscopic, and you have to have pretty amazing ears to hear it in the first place, which is probably beyond me. But a good idea then at this point is to crown the frets and then turn them back into a rounded shape. And for that, we need a special tool. There's a couple versions of it. I've got one here. I'm not sure where it came from. On the side of this file is the file teeth, and they're in the shape of a little groove, which would be the reverse shape of the fret. On each side, I think a little different on each one, just so you have the variation of wider frets or more narrow frets. That's one way of doing it. I believe they have these at Stuart McDonald also. It's an adjustable one with a little hex nut there. You can put different size fret files in there. Again, they have the little groove that'll allow you to take the edges of that groove goes on there and takes those edges down, and you get a rounded off fret again. That's the whole idea there. I generally use this one. It's a little easier to hang on to, but this one is good too, and it's variable. You get 3 different sizes. So I'm going to go over this a little bit. Here's one of the caveats for this. As you're turning it to get that edge of the fret, this is pretty close to the body. So you might want to also take the blue tape, cover up here also. That way, in case you do touch it or hit it with that, if you're a real stickler for cosmetics, you got to be very careful with that. What you can also do is turn it around and hit it from this end, so you're not over the body like that. You got a little bit more room to move here and a pick guard to guard you a little bit. So that might be, try to get it exactly at a nice 90-degree angle, so that you get that crown in the middle. And then basically you just go over it and take the edges down until you round off that fret. Now this may take some time. I'm not going to spend a video the whole aspect of it, but just so you get the idea of what you're supposed to do here. Take those edges down, round it off, get it nice and shaped in a round way like it was originally. Look down at your frets that weren't touched and you'll see how they are down here. Try to match how that looks in a way. Some of them became more flat because they were higher and they had to lose more metal, so you got to work on them a little bit more. But basically, I'll do this off camera, but basically you want to get all these nice and rounded off. Again, here's a point if you're concerned about the cosmetics, because if you slip, you're going to scratch the fingerboard. Get the tape on there. You can tape up the whole thing. If it's your first time, I'd advise just taping the whole neck anyway. Just get it with blue tape with just the frets exposed and go from there. Even cover the rest of this here with blue tape or some type of paper or something that you can prevent it from getting hit if it's your first time. Once you gain a little bit more experience, you know what to watch out for. So off camera, I'm going to do that, and then we're going to restring it and check to see how buzzy it is and how low we can get the action and have it play comfortable without a lot of string buzz and noise. That'll be our next move. All right, so I crowned all the frets, and now I just want to hit it with a little steel wool just to take off the last few bits of metal that are sticking out. There might be a better way of doing this than steel wool, but that's the way I've done it. I'm going to cover up the pole pieces on this because that steel wool is going to stick all over the place on them. So just a little convenience here to make it easier to get it off when I'm done. I'll cover up these pole pieces, magnetic pole pieces to some degree. and take a little steel wool. It's I'm not sure what the coarseness is on this, but it's pretty fine. I'd go with a fine steel wool, because since I'm doing this, I want to have them all even, so I'll pull this off now. And another aspect of doing the steel wool on there, I don't know if you ever played a bass. Most necks that you try are finished, but they can finish them in a satin finish, which isn't shiny, and therefore it's more slippery for your hand. This particular bass is this neck, a $50 neck. It's super shiny, and you can feel your hand kind of stick to it as you move up and down. One way to fix that, and I always use 600 grit, wet or dry sandpaper. Probably find it on Amazon. 600 or even 800 grit. The higher the number, the finer it is. And take that shine off. You could conceivably do it with steel wool a little bit. You take that shine off, what you're doing is you're kind of making a satin finish on the neck, which makes it a lot more slipperier. When I was younger, it was more important to me than it is today. I don't really bother with it so much, but I thought it was important for my hand to slip real easily on the neck, and maybe it was then, and not so much now. But that might very well apply to the fretboard also. So when I take this down a little bit, and I'm not so worried about taking the shine off the finish. Again, if you are, tape the whole thing before you do this. So we'll just take a little bit of a light. And you'll see the frets kind of come alive here too, because they all kind of get the same color shininess, because they're all affected by the steel wool equally, and it kind of brings it together as far as the aesthetics are concerned. So now all the little edges from the crowning and from the fret dressing are pretty much off. That's pretty smooth, it feels good. There's still a little shine to it, and it'll shine itself back up. Even if you take 600 grit paper and take the shine off the back of the neck to make it slippery, as you play, it's gonna get shiny again until you go through the finish, and then you're at wood. Wood feels really good, but it's not sealed. I'm in Nashville now. We have humid summers and dry winters, so it's gonna change a little bit. If you're in a place that has consistent humidity, it might not be so much, but I don't think it's necessarily a good idea to have bare wood, though. My original P bass, it's down to bare wood, and it's working okay. So a lot of rules with all of this. Some of them are based in real science and real technology, and they make perfect sense. But a lot of them are personal preference, and you may violate the rule and not have a problem. You may ignore the rule and have a huge problem. So you gotta, again, working on your own instrument helps you discover these things and helps you to fine tune it to yourself. So it's pretty much ready to be restrung now. So I'm gonna put those strings back on it, and we'll plug it in and see how buzzy it is. Okay, we're restrung and plugged in. And I checked it already, it's pretty darn good. Almost no buzz at all. Really nice. I got lucky on this one. I'm glad it was on camera. Not bad. A little bit. That might not be it. It might be the distortion from the amp. It's not in tune. I'm going to do a video right after this on how to put a set of strings on and how to keep it in tune. So it hasn't applied to this bass yet. So I'll do a little string pull here, and just for lack of anything, I'll just grab another bass and find a G string. Nice. Hard to play it like that, but so it plays great. The neck is very straight, not absolutely straight. The string adjustment I did for height may need to be revisited because we've lost a little bit of height on the frets. So that's one thing you might want to check. I would raise them up now about a quarter turn all the way across. But now we've got a $100 bass basically that plays great. And without a lot of money, you can make almost any instrument. We can always make them better, no matter what condition they're in. But you can generally make a bass play or a guitar play really, really well with a couple things. The 3 points I mentioned, which are the neck adjustment. To revisit it again, it can be a little tricky. Experiment with it a little bit. If you got an old bass or beat up bass to start this stuff on, that's a good idea. Years and years ago, before I actually had my first bass, real bass, my P bass, I had this Hagstrom bass. It wasn't this one, but it was exactly the same as this. A good friend of mine found this for me online years ago. And it's a tiny, as you see, it's a tiny little thing, kind of a toy bass. But Hagstrom makes great stuff. They make great 8-string bass and some good guitars, a Swedish company, very, very nice. So this was my cheap secondary bass that I experimented on before I went and touched my P bass. So I ended up taking the frets off and making it fretless, taking this vinyl off and having it all wood back. And so I had a chance to mess around with a bass that was not of a lot of consequence to me. Later on, I longed for it because it was my very first bass I had. I don't consider it a real bass only because it's kind of it's a tiny little 3/4 size and everything. It wasn't until I got my P bass that was my first real one. But I had this, and it enabled me to do some experimenting instead of doing it on my P bass when I first got it, and I was very young, and it was like getting a brand new car at age 16. You know, you don't want to do too much modification on it. Anyway, but by chance this happened to be sitting here, so I wanted to show it to you and give you that as an example of working on an instrument that's not that dear to you. But once you do get it down, you can apply these principles to anything. And I would really suggest finding some real luthiers on YouTube. Probably a lot of links on Stuart McDonald. If you do a YouTube search, you can find some guys that really know a lot more about it than I do. Give you a lot more fine points and fine tuning to how to do such things. As I said, and I don't mean to be unaggrandizing, to be down on myself, but I know I'm not a luthier. I'm just a bass player, and I do things because back in the day we had no one else that could do them really. We had to kind of figure it out yourself. And so in doing so, I really think it helped me fine-tune myself into the bass and understand it better, which I do think, I might be wrong, I do think helped me musically eventually to be able to know this thing really well and understand what's going on with it. A particular passage I'm having a hard time with because the strings are too high. Well, I can't make them lower because the frets are uneven. Well, now we can, you know, and that's just an oddball explanation of why that would be. But about a $50 body, $50 neck, some leftover used parts. I'm not sure if I had this bridge or if I bought it for $12 on Amazon or bought the tuning keys. I can't remember if I had them or I bought them. Again, they're like, you know, $16 for a set. Pretty easy. And again, I'll put the gentleman who helped me assemble these basses properly, because I wouldn't have done as good a job as him. I'll put his name and link in the comments about this video, about this process on the video. Good coffee this morning, so I'm talking fast. Fortunately, you can rewind and try and figure out what I said. So that's the story. You can make a cheap bass play really well with a couple of little moves. Get the neck straight, set the action correctly, get your pickup height. We didn't go too much into that, but that's something you're going to have to decide for yourself. And then worst case scenario, if you really need to dress those frets and get them flat, you see how it can be done with minimal tools and not a lot of expense. And again, it'll give you that kind of experience that will always make your understanding of the bass deeper and better. So there you have it. I hope you'll find this video as helpful as some of you found my other ones. And there's more to come. And I will be doing more videos about playing and technique and things of that nature. I wanted to cover some things on the bass first, because I think they're a little bit more important as a foundation to get your bass playing well before you get into more of the musicality of it and how to approach it as a player. So that's my plan. I'm going to keep the YouTube videos coming, and I hope you continue to enjoy them, and I'll see you around. Thanks a lot.